Why this review? Diaspora actors have often been the first responders, but their efforts are frequently under-recognized and under-documented. So this review was our attempt to map these efforts, analyze impact, and identify how to support and amplify their work going forward. Like, as mentioned before, Lebanon has had a lot of compounded crises, as you know, for those who are Lebanese or even the foreigners who have been living here for many years. We had the Beirut blast, economic crisis, COVID-19, and then goes on and on and on. And diaspora organizations really stepped up. They're fast, they're agile, and they're community driven. But there's yet little that has been formally documented or coordinated from this. So this is one of the big reasons that we wanted to do this review, because we couldn't really find all much information except if you go into the social media channels, look into it, or know people abroad. It's not that available information. Secondly, so our methodology, we did a lot of data collection. We took a multi-method approach, desk reviews of previous responses, in-depth interviews with diaspora leaders, and stakeholder surveys. So the RTR engaged over 25 diaspora and local actors directly, with particular attention to how organizations coordinated, funded, and implemented their efforts. So we mapped over 140 diaspora initiatives, and I sent emails to every single one of them. We also analyzed over 55 diaspora organizations and the work they did, if they were old, if they were new, what type of work that were they doing. And a lot of these participants were from many different organizations throughout the world, from France, Germany, UK, USA, Canada. Some of these diaspora organizations are multi-sector, some of them are multinational. You can find branches of different ones in Australia to Colombia to Brazil to Germany. It's very fascinating the linkages that have made between these different diaspora organizations. We also did 21 key informant interviews, surveys, and desk reviews. Unfortunately, for desk reviews, there isn't that much information available, so we hope that this real-time review can act as a launching pad for future research to be done and future collaboration to start. So what did we map? As I mentioned, what were the key sectors that we found that diaspora organizations were working in? Health, food security, shelter, livelihoods, education, protection. The mapping covered a wide array of these sectors and types of aid, revealing the diversity of diaspora responses, ranging from emergency relief to long-term development. We also looked at how organizations evolved structurally over time. And because some of them are informal networks, some are registered NGOs, and abroad and in Lebanon. And we have representatives here as well, for example, with Stuh Beirut, who branched out to Letwad Beirut in France, seeing that there is the necessity of acting directly with the diaspora. So they launched their own NGO that they started to engage directly with the diaspora abroad. And then similarly, there's smaller NGOs that weren't even NGOs at first. They were just grassroots initiatives of some friends deciding that they wanted to help and finding ways to do it. And then there are the more formalized, old school organizations that have been around for years and have multi-generational diaspora, Lebanese diaspora being a part of it. And the types of contributions that they did come from financial remittances, in-kind donations, technical expertise, and advocacy. Those of you who know anything about the Lebanese economy know that remittances are basically the second highest entry point for GDP in Lebanon, and which is good, but also sad because we don't have a lot of economy working in Lebanon. But diaspora has had such a huge stronghold over how Lebanon and its economy is and the economic recovery over the years throughout history, from the Civil War to everything afterwards. So they play a huge role, but they don't receive like the spotlight that they deserve. So a few highlights that I wanted to give with diaspora organizations, a few of which are here today. One is Pluralité in Germany. We have Huda here representing. So they focus on promoting Lebanese culture and fundraising for humanitarian projects. Nabad, France, we have Sarah here representing Nabad. They're a recent organization. They focus on organizing fundraising events and advocacy against war crimes. They raised funds for Lebanese and Palestinian organizations. organizations. We have Lebanon, who unfortunately couldn't make it. They're based in the US and around the world as well. They focus on IT education, internship, and university support for Lebanese students. They did a huge campaign recently over the past few years, but what they did is they funneled their donations through another organization called Life. And then we have Aussies for Lebanon, where they organize events, including the sale of Lebanon pendants. They raised 100,000 AUD, distributed to 6 humanitarian partners in Lebanon. These examples illustrate how recent diaspora organizations have emerged in response to the crisis. Some of these focus on culture and fundraising to support Lebanese and Palestinian causes. Some of them try interesting ways of social entrepreneurship and finding pendants or necklaces or different t-shirts I've seen even to be sold to raise money for Lebanon as well, so that they don't feel like they're constantly asking for money, so that it's a bit more transactional where they feel that people are getting something in return as well. And they also ask for donations. They work with students. It's really quite fascinating the large scope that they have in working, especially since they're very different in statures, the different organizations, the diaspora organizations, some being literally 4 friends who decided to start an initiative so they can help Lebanon, to a much bigger organizations that have been around for 20, 30 years and maybe don't have as much enthusiasm. So one of the things that we will talk about a bit is how we can also encourage peer-to-peer collaboration between the diaspora organizations to really foster the innovation that is the root of the diaspora organizations and the help that they give. So our key findings were that, as mentioned before, diaspora actors were first responders. They were insanely quick. Some of them mobilized between 48 to 72 hours after the Beirut blast and just started working on their campaigns and their outreach and fundraising. It was quite a sight to behold. New organizations were agile but fragmented. They didn't know what they were really doing sometimes, where they were learning as they went along with the work. They didn't know how to report. They didn't know how to organize properly. They just went with the flow, which was great because they gave them agility and flexibility and less bureaucracy. But they most of the time didn't know what they were doing, so they were just winging it. On the other side, senior organizations offered structured, sustained reports, but they were slower to act sometimes. They had a bit more bureaucracy. They had old school thinking in the way to do fundraising, so it took a bit more time. And then one of the more important thing is that sometimes we found that there was like strong local partnerships that really filled the critical gaps. So for example, these diaspora organizations, if they didn't have local partnerships on the ground, they wouldn't have known where to send the money. They wouldn't have known how to reach out to communities or to how to funnel the fundraising that they did. Especially so, and one of the more interesting parts is that there was local trust and rootedness, which is a unique strength that diaspora organizations had because they have the pre-existing relationships with communities within Lebanon, whether through hometown associations, faith groups, or family networks. This allowed them to identify needs faster and build responses that were well received by beneficiaries. As mentioned, their agility was also great because they weren't held back by bureaucratic processes that we face with formal NGOs or INGOs even. They played a gap-filling role, responding in areas or sectors under-prioritized by larger INGOs or government agencies. When emergencies, in a sense of like, oh, people's lives are at stake, health is very important, they would fill the gaps of, let's say, education that might have been left behind because it isn't as important as saving lives, but it is in the long run because a child that receives education is a life saved anyway. So they also demonstrated long-term commitment, some of them. Some of them started as a response to the August 4th explosion, but then they maintained their status and they continued and flourished, and they started supporting livelihoods, education, youth development programs. So because this community matters, especially in protracted crises that we see in Lebanon, unfortunately. They also showed real creativity when it comes to fundraising and resource mobilization. They weren't stifled by project proposals that have to meet certain criteria and stuff. So they could be flexible with how they did their projects and their initiatives and their fundraising. So that gave them really an edge upon the formal organizations that we have. Like some of them from crowdfunding platforms and diaspora events to WhatsApp campaigns where people literally just sent links to their friends and their family abroad and in Lebanon to help. Instagram lives and campaigns, they turned their personal and communal networks into engines of giving. So the power of diaspora isn't just in remittances, it's in innovations, relationships, and trust, especially when paired with local actors on the ground, which is something that we really encourage when we come to the recommendations. And this is one of the reasons why we also wanted to hold this event in person, is to promote the collaboration. On the other side, we also observed quite a few challenges. The central issue was lack of coordination. Diaspora organizations often worked in silos in isolation without visibility into what others were doing. This led to inefficiencies and missed opportunities for synergy. We also saw clear duplication of efforts. We see this in the humanitarian system within Lebanon already, so that you can imagine how it is in diaspora organizations when they don't know about each other in different countries and different circles of friendships. So this duplication was especially observant in places like Beirut, where multiple actors unknowingly targeted the same neighborhoods while others were underserved. So people know this neighborhood, so they're helping it out, but there's already another organization, let's say, helping. But then literally the neighborhood behind it, no help was being received. So it was very fragmented and sad in that aspect because resources were being wasted for no reason. Another recurring concern was honestly burnout. We face this here ourselves in the humanitarian system, but at least we get paid for our jobs and are burnt out. But most of these organizations and are volunteer based. So these many, they're doing this after their working hours, using personal funds and feeling emotionally responsible for communities back home. One leader told us they had taken unpaid leave from their job abroad to continue coordinating aid shipments. It's very noble, but because they don't have the training, they don't have the proper understanding, some of them, obviously not all of them, it results to faster burnout because they're not trained to handle, sadly, all of this issues and the problems they might face and seeing the effect of the crises that Lebanon is facing. Again, and this leads to another overlooked issue, which is mental and emotional toll. Like it's not openly discussed. Several diaspora leaders expressed signs of exhaustion and distress, both from the volume of need and from feeling unsupported. The trust-based funding model, while fast, raised concerns about accountability as well, especially from diaspora donors who wanted more transparency without creating heavy bureaucratic processes. Everyone saw during the Beirut blast, like GoFundMe links of like help out and like this and this and that, but they don't know where this money is going. They don't know if it's actually going to the pocket of someone who's creating a fake account, someone who is actually working with an organization or a charity or a youth-based group. So this is one of the issues as well, where people want to help, but they don't feel like they can trust these sources because they're quote unquote not vetted, they're not verified, they don't know how it's working. And unlike a traditional NGO model, they don't have the reporting capabilities of letting people know, oh, this went here and this went there and all the transparency. And finally, diaspora orgs had limited access to formal humanitarian coordination, such as the UN cluster system in Lebanon or national coordination bodies. Many of these diaspora organizations want to engage more systematically, but need more support in navigating those structures. I'm pretty sure that if I went to a cluster coordination meeting here and I asked anyone, name one diaspora organization working outside of Lebanon for Lebanon, and they would be stumped, which is quite sad because there's so much potential in collaboration, in finding ways to work together, which we will get to. So these are the main challenges observed. So now what do we recommend? So our recommendations reflect what diaspora actors themselves told us. They don't want more bureaucracy, but they do want help in collaborating, building trust with local partners, and accessing more sustainable funding streams. So some of the things that we are doing as DEMAC DRC is establishing a diaspora coordination platform, which is the ladies that you see here today in the front. They have flown from Germany, from Australia, from France to have a kickstart of our committee building process. We also want to promote local partnerships, and what we recommend is promoting local partnerships and avoid duplication. And this is why you all are here today, so that you can meet the diaspora organizations and start off in seeing how we can work together and how we can collaborate. And at the end of the day, we also want to develop light touch accountability tools. What this means is that these diaspora organizations might not be ready to become full-on legal NGO entities, but they also still need to understand that there are accountability measures that need to be taken. So trainings on that, collaboration, capacity building, peer-to-peer, or from DEMAC to the diaspora, or any of you present here who would offer trainings would also be great, because we also want them to be accountable for the work that they're doing and to have more transparency with the diaspora, knowing where their money is going at the end of the day, especially when it comes to fundraising. Another thing is, as I mentioned, investing capacity building. Diaspora organizations are such an untapped resource. It's like a clay that needs to be molded sometimes. It comes with their own mold, but you can shape it into something even more beautiful with further capacity building. As mentioned, these people are volunteers. They are giving us their time. They don't have additional time to go out and look for capacity building themselves, or to go on webinars for trainings. But if we organize it and we offer them these free capacity building trainings to see where their potential can go, it would be really great. And also facilitating joint funding mechanisms. This is another thing that we really want to promote as well, and we hope to work together as well in the future as we are so far, is that we want to facilitate joint funding mechanisms. We have the expertise of how to write proposals and how to pitch to donors and all of these things because we have the history. But as mentioned, diaspora organizations tend to have the innovative ideas. They tend to have, are in touch with the diaspora themselves. So when we have joint funding mechanisms, we can both benefit from the projects that we want to do and do it properly in the best way possible. And at the end of the day, we also just want to promote positive engagement, cultural storytelling. This is something that Nabat, for example, in France does really well, where they do cultural fundraising events and they post about history and culture of Lebanon abroad, because some of these diaspora aren't first generation, they're third generation, they're fourth generation. They're disconnected a bit from Lebanon. And we want to promote that feeling of connectedness as well. So that's another aspect that we're really looking forward to. So what's next? As I mentioned, we're working on the Diaspora Coordination Committee, so today we've gathered you here with us, but once you leave in the afternoon, this workshop is going to continue until tomorrow, end of day, where the Diaspora Committee is going to be talking about what they want to do in the future, start putting a roadmap to co-create during this workshop as well, of how to go forward, what type of work they want to do, what sectors they want to work with, they have local partners they have in mind. It's going to be a very democratic, egalitarian system. And we want to continue this engagement and review as well. We want to see what the committee does and hopefully in the next year come back, have another workshop and see what this initial launch and the first workshop brought. Have we succeeded in doing what we wanted to do? And hopefully we'll all see you there as well. Our commitment is supporting capacity strengthening for diaspora actors, bridging the diaspora local partnerships, and amplifying the diaspora voices in humanitarian spaces. Thank you very much for listening to me talk for 30 minutes. It's very much appreciated for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. All those online or in person, please just raise your hands and my colleague Yaman will give you the microphone, and the floor is open.